Today's game is Echo by Ultra Ultra. Echo is a science fiction game with stealth and horror elements. It received exemplary marks for creativity and low marks for people having heard of it. You, for example, probably first learned of it when the studio's closing was the news of the day. Not an ideal source of brand discovery. With the lead now firmly buried, let's talk about Echo. To start with, a little warning. I would rate this game on the high end of the narrative spectrum. At least for me, I think. I could be a little off the mark here. I used to make a point of avoiding games like this, usually by making a mouth noise, and then saying something like, movie. For those of you who don't know, calling a game a movie is a nuclear burn from which no man has ever recovered. Cause after all, what kind of jabroni would want to emulate the biggest entertainment medium on the planet? Your tolerance might be higher than mine. Here's a litmus test. How much does the game have to talk to you before you say some nonsense like, who wrote this? Dexter Thesaurus? Inventor of the dictionary? Stay with me here. I made up a storytelling measurement and then I assigned this game a value on it. And then I duct tape other shit on there like it was a 7th grade science fair project, all so that I could point to this graph and say that the warning is, there is no gameplay for the first hour or so. This isn't a complaint though, this is more like a caveat. But this is also me saying to people who were like me, hey, maybe think about giving it a shot anyway. Look at it like this. Do you have any idea the amount of supreme confidence you have to have in your script and in your concept to ask the player to hold forward for an hour? Somebody once said that you can hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. An hour is the most valuable thing anybody has. That's why we pay by the hour, because that's the most amount of time you can go before you start thinking, how much am I being paid for this? Actually, 80% of people who installed the game made it past the hour to the first achievement. So maybe it was me. Maybe I was the old man the whole time. Alright, caveats over. Now for some details. Echo starts with this lady with the space-age curl, waking up and being told that it's been a century of hypersnooze and she's now free to move about the cabin. There's a small-scale scene where we learn that the stakes of the journey had something to do with the life of another crewmate, and now that we've arrived at the destination, we're trying to restore them to life. Here we learn that the two surviving characters aren't likely to keep the band together if the reunion tour does not work out.
So you decided not to like me?
I will say, if you're going to immerse the player in dialogue, it helps if it's, well scripted, interesting, conveys character. At least the writing portion anyway. I think voiceover in indie games tends to be a little hit or miss.
Come waltzing in here, giving orders. Or even, Foster died because of you, you stupid bitch.
Damn! This voice actor is actually off the chain!
I don't like me much either.
Now I'm just a simple country amateur internet video game enthusiast, but one thing I kind of understand is that there's a surprising amount of moving parts to getting a good voiceover. There's jobs you would never think about in there. There's engineers and directors for context and communication. There's overhead. How did an indie studio navigate all of this while attaching a Hollywood actor to the project? It's kind of a small miracle, especially to me because it seems like I've spent most of my adult life watching large established companies slam dunk their voiceover track into the garbage, pinky up. The dynamic between the ship computer and the main character is probably one of the highlights of the game.
I really wouldn't get my hopes up.
How do I turn down the volume on the commentary track?
Quite good, so I'm going to avoid spoiling it as much as possible. But with the scene set that we're here to do the whole space Indiana Jones thing, we arrive at the main draw of the game, the palace, the remaining work of a splintered sect on the edge of a giant, expanding human universe. Throughout the game, the prevailing question is what was the exact purpose or use of the palace? And the characters' theories range from mausoleum to perpetual poor person torture device. Based on what I've seen, they might have been attempting to ascend humanity to the foretold next level, creating a being no longer bound by the one person, one chair rule. There are so many chairs in this game that it's a real possibility that there was a chair-based subplot somewhere that I missed. Alright, I told a goofy joke about it, but let me take a second to just give the game its proper due on this, because this setting is really something. From what I can gather, a megalithic palace has been at the center of the creative direction for the game since the beginning. You can tell that imparting a feeling of ridiculous scale was a priority. There's a few places where the game cleverly puts forward like this easily recognizable design, and then it will diverge your path from a near exact copy of it in order to give you the impression that a passage or floor plan would continue on without you indefinitely. That's really neat. There's an achievement for walking a hallway which loops on itself, giving the impression of infinity. There are some comments peppered in about distance.
The lift is slowing. You've traveled 55 kilometers.
To really hammer in the expanse of... Okay, yes, I'll come clean. I did decide to play this game because of one sentence I saw that said it might be like Blam. Congratulations, you got me. Anyway, after doinking around for a bit, you turn the dang thing on. Except you probably put in the wrong password because it starts trying to kill you. Clones of you spring to life. Clones without your limited human concept of personal space. You're given a few tools to fend them off, a sonar sweep to ping enemies, the most uncomfortable looking sneak, a stealth choke-out maneuver that has to leave some kind of psychological damage considering it's suicide by proxy. Oh yeah, and a gun, which kills no matter where you hit, which is a fine compromise. Not everyone is like me, eh? Video game expert. The calling card of this game is the updating enemy behavior. The palace takes snapshots of your actions, and then the enemies gain those actions. You jump a ledge. The enemies, which were previously bound to one floor, now expand their route and jump over ledges as well. The palace is constantly going through light and dark cycles. In the light, the enemies can learn. Once you've recorded a certain number of actions, the light shuts off, you creep around for a bit, then there's a reboot. The lights come back on, the enemies start doing the new thing. The reboot is a little bit of a bummer because it includes you, the player. The screen cuts to black and you have no control for a couple of... Once the game gets properly going, you're dealing with a shifting reflection of yourself while you grab keys and turn on next thing. At first I thought freezing the player as well as the clones was like a balance thing so that everybody would be on an even playing field, and that you couldn't get away with too much stuff while they were updating. But it turns out it's really good for the player, because if you turn around and anything is still there, you can pull an old 360-degree choke slam. I don't know, the speed bumps make me feel like I'm having an extended session of hiccups, or like my monitor is set to a really weird refresh rate. Couple of small downsides, the objectives need a bit more variety. It's ironic that a game about a giant planet building would have a scope of gameplay so small. I found myself thinking, oh, another one of these, pretty quick. Echoes don't reflect things in perfect uniformity. Their version of you can be a little bit chaotic. Some images can do things, some don't seem to. Somebody get in the chair. Somebody get in the chair so I can leave. On God, bro, if you don't get in that chair, man. But if, for example, we had a room where the rules were temporarily shifted, that would set up different objective types. You know, just write it off. Just be like, here's a room where the palace got overclocked, and in these rooms, the echoes reflect you with perfect uniformity, so you have to use them to remotely solve. Look, let's not kid ourselves here. These suggestions are all made up by a drunk man in a closet, okay? I don't know. I'm just saying that there should be objectives that aren't go grab the key and go grab these things. Downside too, it's a little bit too easy to nerf your own clones. Playing against yourself isn't really that concerning if yourself am a dumb. The biggest danger the echoes possess is this queue of actions they've built up that will allow them to act unpredictably. But the queue depth is only 1 deep on default difficulty, and it's easy to unintentionally shuffle crap actions into their deck, like this nerd that I taught to squat floor the gram. And even if you're not being thick on purpose, you can always just carry around a couple too many insurance policies. There's a glass noisemaker you can carry around that you can always just brain them with. And as long as you got stamina, you can push these twigs right over. In my experience, this turns a tense, unnerving game of cat and mouse into like a slap fight at the local monkey bars. Have you ever looked at yourself in the mirror and thought, I could kick that dude's ass? Well, the main character did, and she's right. You're pretty much a bully. The number of women I've kicked square in the solar plexus in this game, they should change the title from Echo to Move Ho. That's actually the best one in here. No? Alright, I can read the room. Let's wrap it up and I'll take these tomatoes and get out of here. So, who is Echo for? Echo is for a person for who... a person for whom? Echo is for a person that what they're looking for is atmosphere, presentation, mood, intrigue, and some cool sci-fi concepts. And they're interested in something a little different even if the gameplay isn't too challenging. If you have an oddly specific interest in larger-than-life architecture, this one's for you. Also, bring it in. High five, bud. If you want to get ahead of the upcoming movie that is planned, and loudly explain to your friends in the theater that the game is always better, then yes, I guess this one is for you, but do me a favor and like perform some self-examination, please. That's it for this time. Join me here next time where I hopefully will have another idea for something to talk about. Wouldn't want to have to resort to my own grocery list reaction video again.